Welcome back to another Mackem in the Middle podcast after another Sunderland League game and another point of discussion, I think is fair to say. We did finish 1-1 yesterday at home against Oxford, in which Sunderland did take the lead, and then Oxford equalised in the first half, and it did finish 1-1. And John is the only person with me today, just the two of us as the song goes. Not sure who sings it. I'll have to look at that one because I say that a lot and still don't know who sings it. But the best way to describe the game, I think it's fair to say, good performance, poor result.
Yeah, I'd probably go along with that. Performance, yeah, it was still needed. I think it goes down as maybe there was sort of the effort was there, which is obviously that's a given. That should be there anyway. But
Yeah,
I think even Johnson said it. The last, the final ball, just the final bit of quality we needed to unlock just wasn't there. But maybe, don't get me wrong, I was proper annoyed at the result, but it was just one of those you've just got to, sort of settle down, take it. Yes, we wanted to win. I think we should have won, especially second half with, them. They didn't really want to win. You could tell they were happy with a point at the Stadium Light, which is frustrating, which, goes into a point of do we need a higher caliber of player to maybe get over these teams who seem to be happy to come here and get a point against us? But yeah, it's a tough one to swallow. But if you go and win Tuesday and Saturday, then I'll probably forget this one. But if we don't, that's when it again, me included, then the questions will get asked once again.
Yeah. I think most people kind of agreed that 7 points out of these 3 games is the minimum, and we are still technically on track for that if we do win the next 2 games. And context does play a big part in this. But the result as a whole, I think Oxford hadn't conceded in the last 6 games or something, I think it was. A draw at home to a team that will be in and around the playoffs, possibly automatic promotion come the end of the season, as an individual result, isn't as bad a result as some people seem to make it out to be.
I think you've got to take it in. I just think if you want to win the league, I think you've got to beat. You've just got to find a way of beating these teams at home. We know that not a lot of teams are going to come and play us like for like, which we keep saying. So when we, if we go toe to toe and it comes out a draw, that's fine. But when, especially second half, I think we let them play in the first half. Excuse me. But then second half, it's I don't think Hoffman had anything to do at all. And we just got to find a way of beating these teams. And again, like I said, if it's a frustrating one and one we should have won, but if we then back it up, we've got the next 2 home games. If we beat Morecambe, which not being big headed or anything, but you'd like to think that you could maybe come away with that with a 2 or 3-0 result. And then obviously it's a big game against Plymouth, and obviously if you beat them, it sends out a good message. The form I know they've dropped off of the last few weeks, but you still got to go and do the business. So then it doesn't look like maybe such a bad result. I thought Oxford, to be fair, were very, very good in defence, and our attacking options I think are very limited at the moment. Not that we've got, you maybe go to the injury list, but I think only then we're only probably missing McGeady, who hasn't really done anything. And then I think it's maybe another question for January. Do you swap out an Aidan O'Brien who's not going to come on and do anything? Maybe we need to swap him out for someone who is going to come, into the squad and do something, because we're playing Broadhead, Stewart, Embleton came on, looked bright finally.
Yeah.
Diak, who's obviously having to play, he's not an option we can bring on. Gooch is playing a bit further back, so we haven't really got the attacking options to come on and maybe change it last 20 minutes. I think Johnson's a little bit hamstrung by that at the moment. A few people said about, in-game management. I'm not sure what else he could have really done, sort of tactically to change it. So it's, it's probably back to your original point. It's, we'll take the point. It's a frustrating one. We get that, but you back it up with 6 points this week, and we're going into the Christmas period looking fairly strong.
Yeah. And you're going back to the point you made there, I think it's fair to say people who want Johnson out will probably always want Johnson out. The people who want Johnson in will probably always want Johnson in. And the people who are on the fence will be on the fence until the end of the season, really. But it does almost come across as a no-win situation for Johnson at times. And it's not necessarily defending him, because he does deserve criticism and has deserved criticism this season. But as a whole, which we'll get into, the game yesterday wasn't a bad game. The performance wasn't bad. We started well, fell off a little bit in the first half, and then based on the second half, probably deserved the win. And on another day, could have won that game maybe 3-4, possibly even 5-1. But the one mistake that cost us the game, cost us the 3 points yesterday, was just an individual error that's got nothing to really do with tactics and the way Johnson sets them up to play. I know there was someone saying that, well, Johnson's got them to play it out from the back and kind of play it out from danger. But as a player, you've got to have that knowledge to know we can play it out here or just hoof it. And Gooch didn't in that specific moment.
Yeah, for me, it's a bit of a shocker. Because then after that, the next sort of 10, 15 minutes after that, I think Gooch literally hoofed every single ball he had.
Yeah.
So, I think he knows. And again, that's our philosophy, but it's a little bit, come on, that's probably game management from the players and not, like you say, Johnson can't really do anything about that because I'm sure he'd be screaming at him saying, just clear, especially if you're turning into your box, just clear it. There's plenty of times sometimes we could play the simple ball and we do lump it. You know what I mean? We've got to learn those things. But again, it's the square peg and round holes again. You're playing I know he's filled in there before, but you wouldn't say it's his proper position. Winchester plays well at right back, and we're all applauding him. If he makes a few mistakes or gets caught out of position, it's he's a midfielder, doing a defensive job.
Yeah.
Not that I'm excusing Gooch because I think that's still quite a basic thing. But yeah, for me, I don't see what Johnson can do there.
Yeah. And another criticism people made of Johnson after the game, especially, which is pretty much always the case if the result doesn't go your way, was allegedly the team selection was wrong. And I think we have 13 fit senior players. Is there really anything he could have changed about that starting 11 that people would have agreed with?
There's going to be 100 different opinions, and I think if none more so than Twitter. Everyone's got an opinion. Straight away I saw. I checked the team at 2:30, and I normally sort of go through the comments just to see what the consensus is, and I'm sure someone kicked off that Gooch was playing, and Elliot Embleton wasn't. Now, okay, that he's well entitled to his opinion, but you've got to look at it and think, well, Embleton, since maybe the sending off and even maybe just before that, hasn't really pulled up any trees, so it doesn't really deserve to start, as opposed to, Lyndon Gooch last week. Obviously, we know he has his flaws, but last week, filled in and probably had his best game of the season. So you'll never, with the team section, you'll never please anybody. I'm sure 20 years ago, if you went back and if we played, if Quinn came out and Dicho went up front with Phillips, I'm sure people would be fuming about that on Twitter. Whereas it still would have worked. I think it's just something we've got to live with now. Just every single person's got an opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion. I wouldn't say I'm always right. I wouldn't say I'm always wrong, and I wouldn't say that about anyone else, but I'm not quite sure with 13 or 14, players, fit senior players, sorry, what else Johnson's, supposed to do. We know we're playing, Lyndon Gooch out of position, Dayaku's, come from Bayern Munich or whatever, and I'm sure he's not used to playing, to doing the defensive work, because how much defending the Bayern Munich do? So he's not really going to be taught that type of thing. So he's, I'm not quite sure what else he can do. When we were early on in the season, we had Hume, Sirkin, Huggins. We could change all that up. Centre backs, we had sort of 4 or 5. Centre midfield, sometimes Dan Neil couldn't get in, and now you'd say he's one of the better ones. Obviously, Carl Winchester's returned into centre mid, who I thought was the best player on the pitch yesterday. Have we got something else for Ross Stewart when he comes off? Because let's be honest, Aidan O'Brien's he works hard, but he's not going to be the threat that Stewart is. So I think we're just a little bit hamstrung by the options. And maybe it's a case of the ones who are, your Aidan O'Briens, who are staying fit but not really contributing in the league to the cause. I'd say. Then I think we're going to need some serious plans in place. I think if we really do want to push, because at the moment it is tough, but ultimately we're still massively in with a chance. I'm probably as guilty as anyone that's thinking, last few weeks, we're not playing very well. Granted, we haven't. We've been smashed off a few teams, which is going to happen sometimes. But ultimately, I think we're what 2 points off the top, and we're still neck and neck with everyone. We've got everyone to play, so why we can't? I don't think we can fully go out on Johnson, even though rightly so, questions should be asked and they should be. But let's have a bit of level-headedness about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned there the threat of Ross Stewart, and the thing is with Stewart, if he's not scoring goals, he still offers a lot outside of that. His hold-up play, the runs into the channels, the work rate that he has. But it is becoming, I'd say, a worry, a bit probably concerning at times is probably the best way to describe it. How long it's taken him to get this next goal to kind of go on a good run, and once he does, I think the results will definitely start turning in our favour more often.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I think he's working so hard, and because we're not, free flowing at the moment, I think sometimes when he does come out wide and he does hold the ball up, then when you are hitting the ball into the middle, you haven't really got any real threat in there.
Yeah.
I think you maybe got to ask for more from your wide players. Certainly, your left back and right back need to become more of an attacking threat, and sort of two up down the wing. Sort of classic Mickey Gray and Alan Johnston type of thing for the older heads. And Ross Stewart needs to make sure he's a massive threat in the box. In the middle, that's where we need you. We know. We know that you can run in behind, you can hold the ball up, and you can come out wide. But I don't want to see him on the halfway line. I'm trying to hold the ball up on the turn. I want to see him right up there because he's got the pace. He's not just a target man. I think we need to get Broadhead for the time being. I think we need to get him right up alongside him and just say, right, play around.
I think one of the things from the game yesterday as well, I think there was one passage especially where we're on the counter attack. Pritchard played it into Stewart on the right side, and there was just no one even trying to make any kind of run to get near Stewart. I think he ended up holding the ball for 5 or 10 seconds in the same place, passed it backwards, made a run, and then got it back himself. Like, the options up front now, even though we've got so many players who can play there, they're just non-existent at times.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, like you say, we've got Pritchard, who I think at the moment is on a good spell of form. Obviously, Diaku's hit and miss. But yeah, we need to get ourselves right at the pitch. We need to start filling the box a bit more, like we did early on in the season. When your Winchester from right back was picking up was getting a goal. How many threats has Gooch been on the goal? When he's played sort of at fullback last couple of weeks, you would say none at all. So there's been like a shift.
Oh, not on the opposition goal anyway.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. But he should, in fairness, he should be. If you obviously, I know it's different level, but you look at the fullbacks, in the Premier League, your Trent Alexander-Arnold's and Chilwell's, Reece James and Robertson's. Those obviously they're elite players, at the top of their game, but it should still be the same at our level. They should still be able to be, a threat going forward and, obviously defending first and foremost. But if you do that, you're pegging other teams back. And for the first half yesterday, we just didn't, we didn't peg them back. All right, we scored early on, which, was decent. And then you've then got to build. If you get that second, I think then you are on you're on sort of the crest of the wave. Then the crowd will, sort of, I didn't say they didn't get behind them, but you know what I mean? It would just sort of follow suit. And the players would be a little bit, I want to say maybe less nervous in the first half than they were. The second half, it was all us, but I didn't, it was obviously we hit the post a few times, and that's just one of them things. But I would like to see, obviously going back, we've got to see something else. I think we do need another striker in January.
Yeah.
To
So I think Ross Stewart's technically our only striker as such, isn't he? You've got Aidan O'Brien, who's an attacker, Broadhead's an attacker, but we wouldn't really class either of them as an out-and-out striker.
No, I don't. Obviously, Ross Stewart is the out and out striker, and if you're playing Broadhead up with him or Broadhead on his own, I don't think he's going to survive. Sort of League One centre backs are just going to bully him. Whereas Ross Stewart obviously can handle himself. So maybe you need to think about getting someone near a Stewart like Broadhead, which would work. But I think you then need someone else to bring on. Aidan O'Brien, bless him, he's not really done anything for me, especially in the league, and that's what we need. So I'll be happy to swap him out. If he needs to go on loan somewhere or transfer permanently, and then we do need to get another striker who can play, sort of your Ross Stewart type, who can come in and get those sort of 5 to 7 goals between now and the end of the season, add into what Ross Stewart should get. Yeah.
Well, we've talked about the Oxford goal a little bit. Obviously, the Gooch mistake and then hilariously bad dive to try and win the free kick went to Matty Taylor, who finished well. But the opening goal for Sunderland, I think, was about 5 or 6 minutes in. Dayaku is a very interesting player, I think is the best way to describe him. He's either looking very lively and very dangerous, or reminds me of Callum McFadzean at times. He can't trap the ball, which is a worry for someone who has played for Bayern Munich at times. But ultimately, I don't think he had a bad game yesterday. It wasn't great, but he took his goal very well.
Yeah, it's a decent finish, to be fair. Only scores on his left foot, despite being right-footed. But I think you've got to take everything into context with him. I think obviously moving to a new country, he's come from Bayern Munich. Training with, let's be honest, superstars, and that type of thing. So again, he's probably not used to having a League One, fullback right up his arse. He's obviously not used to that. It's a big learning curve. I think we've got to give him time. Don't get me wrong. He needs to work on, I'd say his physicality. He needs to work on, beating his man. If you've got a winger like him, you'd expect one-on-one to be able to get his crossing. I think once or twice he actually did that yesterday.
Yeah.
So hopefully they get him on the training pitch and they say, look, you can. Maybe just just a bit of confidence. Obviously after the goal, that's going to do him the world of good. And just say, look, just go at your man. We know 9 times out of 10, you probably are going to go past him or win a corner. And you are going to be a threat for us, but. You just need to believe in yourself. Again, it's a new country for him, new way of life. So we've got to give him that. But it goes both ways. He's got to want to do it and be the best he can here.
Yeah. Well, that was the opening goal. Obviously, Matty Taylor equalised straight after. It was in the first half. And we've talked about the second half. Sunderland did dominate that half, but didn't get the goal despite hitting the woodwork twice. So it did finish 1-1. And the other talking point, which was made on Twitter, on the radio, and has certainly been blown out of proportion, I believe. There was a guy phoned in on BBC Newcastle who said Johnson was sticking 2 fingers up at him and arguing with him. The video came out and I mean, I can't even tell if he has stuck 2 fingers up at him or kind of waved at his hand to say, like, shush kind of thing. But either way, if you're going to give abuse to someone on a human level, regardless whether they're a footballer, a manager, a coach, a referee, or whoever it is, you can't really complain if they give you anything back.
No, of course you can't. Like you say, on a human level, I'm sure the guy hasn't gone up to Johnson and said, something constructive. We know it would have been there,
Well, he admitted himself on the radio. He went up to Johnson and said, do us all a favour and leave the club or walk away or something along them lines. I mean, that was what he said on the radio. So I imagine there was a few words missing from that sentence, which he said. And Johnson's reacted pretty much how anyone else would react in that situation.
Yeah, of course we would. I mean, me and you are exactly the same. We know at the end of the game, the heat of the moment, the result. Don't get me wrong. I turn my stream off and I'll give it the big FO. That's a reactionary thing. We don't need anyone going up to the manager and saying stuff. And like you say, he's probably worded it nicely for the radio, and he's making out he's sort of the victim in it almost. And for me, it's almost a non-event. I'm sure the guy can't go to Johnson and have a reasonable conversation and just say, look, I'm unhappy. Do you know what I mean? It like we say, it doesn't really happen like that.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just a bit of a non-event, and different if he's literally gone up to the face of a supporter, and actively, sworn back at him. But for me, it's just a bit of a non-event and just trying to create, something that maybe just not there. I think we have to remember where we are, in terms of the league position. If we were like where Ipswich were, look at how well they played against us, controlled the ball. We happen to have 2 shots and we beat them 2-0. 10 days later, they sacked their manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's madness. Like I said, we do need a balanced view with Johnson. Questions rightly to be asked. When we get smashed by Portsmouth, don't get me wrong. The Charlton, when we lost the Rotherham game, there are a few things creeping in that are allowed to be questioned, but it's not. It's not the pitchfork mob. We don't need that. We don't need people like that. Why is the guy done this? This has happened, and then run up, Total Sport and gone on. Do you know what I mean? You don't need to do it, do you? You're creating something that's not there, and then obviously a lot of media sites are going to run with it. For me, it's just a bit of a non-event. If you're going to do that to someone, doesn't matter who it is, you're going to get some back. You can't then turn victim after you've provoked, because I think as well, you've got to remember Johnson's going to be well pissed off with a 1-1 draw. He's going to be. He has to be.
That was the other point he made on the radio. This fella, and he said that Johnson doesn't seem to care. He shows no passion on the touchline. He just stands there with his arms crossed. But that couldn't be much further from the truth. I think I've never seen a manager pick up so many yellow cards for arguing with decisions and shouting at the referee or the linesman or the fourth official. You can say a lot about Johnson while he's been at Sunderland, but claiming he's not passionate about the project, as he calls it, is definitely not one of them.
No, exactly. And I think he lives and breathes it just as much as the fans do. I think on the sideline, he's always going mental. He's always being reprimanded. The fourth official stands with him more than his assistant does. It's just continuous. And like I said, he'll be as fuming as anyone with a 1-1 draw at home to a team that we've played really well. And then I think a lot of people will read into it about his, because sometimes his press conferences do go on a little bit. But I think that's, he's got himself in. He's quite a professional guy. I like to think he's quite methodical in thinking. So he probably has gone into the changing rooms and probably calmed down. And then he obviously has to come out and speak to the media. And that's when you do get more of a, if we did the podcast after, I don't know, say when we lost to Portsmouth 4-0, it's a lot worse. It's going to be a lot worse than say if we did it 24 hours later or, 2 days later, because you have time to process. And he's just a bit, I think he's a bit quicker at processing, but he's going to be fuming with that result and, and the reaction, even at the full-time whistle, if that guy has shouted at him, Johnson could have just shrugged it off and not said anything, but he didn't. He turned around, gave him a little bit back, but that's what you got to expect.
Yeah. We'll quickly go through player ratings. This is going to be a shorter one because we are both ill and probably very tired as well on a very cold and windy Sunday afternoon. But we'll start with the ratings. We'll go through these quick. Hoffman, 6, didn't really have anything to do in the game. I think he made 1 save in the second half. It was straight at him. Only thing I would say was his kicking is very poor at times. But yeah, 6.
Yeah, same gone with 6. Like you say, he covered most of it. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, then Noguchi at wing back. Definitely looked more dangerous going forward when he's further back, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. But it was his mistake that essentially cost us the 2 extra points or 3 points as you would. So 5 for me.
Yeah, same. I've gone with a 5. I think if you're turning, I think it's the kick probably doesn't annoy me as much as the stupid sort of falling over.
Yeah, he does that all the time as well. Though I think it's just you don't notice it as much unless it directly leads to something.
You just haven't learned since when Luca and 9 did it. And these stupid fouls are given. But if they're sometimes you just can't be certain they will be given. You can't do that. So just get rid of the ball and don't play for it. And you got caught out. So yeah, 5 for me.
Yeah, Flanagan played in the back 3, and I think he did fairly well. Defended well, never really put a foot wrong. So 7, I went with for Flanagan.
Yeah, same. I thought he was very, very good yesterday. Led like a bit of a captain. Yeah, I was very impressed. 7.
Yeah. Bailey Wright again. I went with 7. Started in the back 3, we moved to a back 4 in the second half, and did okay at right back, although he doesn't really give you much hope when he gets past the halfway line. But he is a central defender naturally. I think he did all right. So again, 7.
Yeah, 7. Again, I thought, he did well in defence. And then sort of last 10, 15 minutes, he actually played a bit on the right wing and was probably more of a threat than some of our wingers are at times. So, yeah, I'll give him a 7.
Yeah. Doyle, again, part of the back three. I think he was the weakest of the back three, but still don't think he was much worse than the back three. So, again, 7.
Yeah, I'll probably go over 6. I think it was just a little bit more quieter. I think maybe you're looking for him to be the one to bring the ball out, because he's very, very comfortable on the ball. And I didn't really see that, so I'll knock him down just 1, but nothing too bad.
Yeah. Diaku probably going to be a difficult one to actually give a rating because obviously he got his goal and took it very well, but as we've mentioned a few times now, his decision making is very poor at times. His first touch is again at times just non-existent. Still looks like he has a player in him, and again, you don't sign for Barcelona, Bayern Munich, I should say, if you don't have the ability. But we are yet to really see that. I'd probably go with a low 7, based on the whole 90
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, I'll probably go over 7. And to be fair, I thought he did actually work quite hard to try and cover. Sort of going backwards as well. So maybe there's signs of a bit of an improvement in there. So yeah, 7, and he scored as well. So we'll give him that.
Yeah. Dan Neil, I'd probably go with 6. I think he's shown a lot more defensive kind of play in the game yesterday, which we haven't seen too often, and it's probably a good thing because he's definitely more effective going forward. But he did well on the ball, did well off the ball, didn't really do anything wrong. So 6.
Yeah, same. Gone with 6. He was a little bit frustrating at times. I like to see him get on the ball a lot more, but it was just one of those games. I think you can't expect it all the time. So yeah, 6 for me.
Yeah. And alongside him was Winchester, who I went with a 7. I thought he was probably our better player, probably our best player on the day against Oxford. Put in some good tackles, kept it simple on the ball, and similar to 09 when he plays, just never stops running, closes everything down. 9 times out of 10 wins his first challenge. So yeah, 7 for me.
I'll actually boost him up to an 8. I thought he was the best player on the pitch yesterday. I thought he was brilliant. I think you can't revert him back into right back now. I think he even starts ahead of, he's the first name on the team sheet for me at the moment. In there, I love to see him going around and bollocking players off. Even I've seen him bollock off, Bailey Wright and Flanagan at times, and they're seen maybe as the more senior players. So, like you say, he was everywhere, and yeah, I was really impressed.
Yeah. The front three, Broadhead tried like all game, and you can again never fault his effort. He still looks like a very, very good player. I think I've been impressed with him every time he's played, but similarly to every time he's played, apart from I think was it Shrewsbury, the goal?
Yeah.
Apart from that game, he hasn't had anything to really show for it. Obviously got a goal in the cup a while back now, but everything he's trying will eventually pay off, and I look forward to that. But it didn't quite pay off yesterday, so I'll go with a 6.
Yeah, same. I've gone for 6. He sort of drifted out in periods. I'd like to see him get a little bit more involved, and maybe, like I said earlier, closer to Stuart. Because I think their vision that they both got, and if we can get a little partnership going, I think that would suit us really well. So yeah, I'll go over 6.
Pritchard, I would probably go with a high 6, maybe a 7. Again, tried a lot, but just final pass wasn't always there for him. It didn't always come off, but he's definitely in the best form that we've seen him in so far, and I think keeping him fit will be important. But yeah, I'd probably say a 6 yesterday.
I'll probably bump him up to a 7. I think he played the ball through for Dayaku, and great through ball for Broadhead as well. So I think we're finally seeing what the player that we should, we know he should be one of the best players in the league, and we're starting to see some consistency there. So yeah, I'll give him a 7 for yesterday.
Yeah. And last but not least, Stuart, service was limited into him, and part of that is down to just the quality of service and the fact that he is starting to drop deeper and deeper for different reasons. Can't really remember him having any kind of clear-cut chances. I think there was one header from about 10 yards out, which he headed straight at Eastwood. But other than that, worked hard all game. So again, 6.
Yeah, I got him with 6. I was a little bit frustrated that because he did hit the crossbar, didn't he? It just went on just underneath the crossbar and come out. But I think he almost mishit it, which was a little bit frustrating. But again, he's one of those one who, if he's not scoring, he will graft his ass off. But I'd love to see him just try and remain the focal point, in the middle and let the others do the wide work just to get the ball into you. So, yeah 6 for me.
And man of the match, I think it's fair to say Winchester.
Yeah, all the way. I thought he was brilliant yesterday. And especially a little mention, I think it's a little mention. I thought Embleton was very energetic when he come on. I'd like to see a little bit more, just a tiny bit more quality. And I think some of the balls that he puts in do actually, find their way to our players. So let's hope that he's found some form finally.
Yeah. Morecambe on Tuesday, predictions for that one?
I'd like to think a 2 or a 3-0 run of the mill, easy. When I say easy, just no injuries and the game sort of just goes. We win 2 or 3-0. I'll take that all day long. But again, as Sunderland fans, we know that it's never easy. So, but yeah, I'll take a 2 or 3-0.
Yeah, hopefully so. We'll be back to talk about that Tuesday game on Wednesday. Hopefully, I think. And we'll have one talking about the game on next Saturday, which is Plymouth. But it's been a pleasure again, John. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me, as always.
But until next time, we will see you there.
That's all, folks.